All right, so this is my little attempt at TI and TE and using MMA as kind of a reference for Socionics. So let's see how this goes. So, in the realm of MMA, of fighting, okay, many fighters come in there with a TI structure that they have learned through time. All right, that means that they learned a particular system and understood its techniques, its rules, its discipline, how it's meant to all come together, and so on. That system, that framework and structure they put together, that could be Taekwondo, that could be boxing, that could be wrestling, that could be Muay Thai, karate, whatever. And that gave them a foundation, a set of rules, and a set of understanding of how a fight is defined according to that system. So each one of those systems, again, views a fight in its own way. You know, Taekwondo may view it as having two opponents standing far apart from each other with a referee in the middle, and they use kicks to kind of win the fight. Boxing may have, oh, excuse me, boxing may have referee also, two opponents standing across from each other, but they use hands. Wrestlers, two guys, referee, whatever, right? You get the point. At some point, you now get into whether it's MMA or you want to talk about, even better, a street fight. No rules, right? The real world, where things are messy, things are complicated. Now, there may be no rules at all, no structure, no framework to anything. Everything's just a mess. Many of your strong TI users are going to try to apply some kind of structure to that mess and try to make it work and make sense. They're going to work hard to do that. Just like somebody trained in boxing or wrestling is going to try to make those techniques that they have spent a lot of time refining and defining things, they're going to try to make it work by imposing it on whatever fight situation happens to break out. Now, maybe somebody who comes at this from a very strong TE point of view, they might say, you know what, I don't want to worry about all of your rules and definitions and all this structure. I don't want to train to figure out all that structure because I'm not convinced most of that shit is necessary or even works when you get out into the real world, right? What is the point of me spending countless amount of time refining a jumping, spinning back kick that I may never get a chance to use when I'm in a bar situation and there's not enough space to even try to use that? Why even bother with that, right? Why am I bothering with fancy footwork and this and that you spent countless amount of time refining that movement pattern, that movement structure for, when there's no room to move around in anyway? When I can just maybe surprise a guy with a beer bottle and crack over the back of his head, and that won the fight for me, and I didn't have to train much of anything to do that, right? But I know it works, and I see that it works. You know, hit a guy with a freaking chair, oh, that shit worked, and I didn't require a whole lot of structure or training or refinement to really, define that this is what was going to work and how. But I kind of have already seen through trial and error and observation what seems to work. And I see that I don't need that much work, that much training, that much refinement of structure in order to make something as simple as just cracking a guy with a beer bottle work. So this is kind of a way in which we could see opposites kind of colliding. A TI individual working on refining things. Like if you see in Socionics, a lot of our TI heavy individuals spend a lot of their time discussing how the theory works and whether this definition is the right way to look at it, or should we redefine an element or a function, or which researcher said it best and which researcher maybe needs to needs to work on it. There's a lot of discussion time spent on that. Whereas maybe some TE heavy people are kind of going, I don't really care which researcher said it. I don't care if it was Vanderhood or Kiersey or Augusta or Galenko. I don't really give a shit where it's coming from. And I'm not that crazy about trying to spend that much time refining what is FI and versus FE. What I am more interested in seeing people and all the people I've seen and on the street and how that works and what people seem to gravitate towards and not gravitate toward. So I'm less interested in that structure and more interested in these behavior patterns, the more complicated patterns that maybe now start to show up when we talk about blocking. What is SE and TI together? What is SE and FI together? What does an FINE together look like? We start to form these bigger chains, these bigger molecular building blocks that now start to show a behavioral trait and pattern we can start to see. So anyway, this was kind of some musings on how maybe if you're looking at it from more of a martial arts point of view in the world, you can kind of see this balance between TI, TE, what's their differences kind of play out like, and how somebody who maybe is very TI focused might be that sort of traditionalist or individual that really likes to refine their martial art heavily and just apply that as best they can in the messy fight world. Excuse me. Versus that TE individual who's like, listen, I don't want to spend that much time trying to refine certain techniques and try to somehow impose that. Rather, I want to have a lot of proven things that work really well and maybe just blend that together or pick and mix and match whichever ones I need for the situation. Again, I hope that somehow resonates with some of you. I understand this might seem like a very SE example, and to my ladies in the audience, they may not relate to this very well, but I gave it a shot. So like and subscribe as always. Let me know if there's any comments and if you thought this was helpful or if you thought that it wasn't helpful.